In the 3rd year after getting out of prison, I had become an expert at handling pufferfish in the seafood market. When my ex-husband Andrew came with our son, I was kneeling on the floor, using these hands, with broken finger bones, to dig out the gills of a fish. He covered his son's nose and mouth in disgust, as though avoiding something filthy. Get someone else to do the killing. This woman reeks of dead fish. She'll ruin my wife's sashimi. Before he finished speaking, his gaze froze when he saw the old scar on the back of my hand. Selena, didn't I have someone leave you a way out back then? How could you willingly let yourself fall to this point? He paused, still looking down on me, just like he did 6 years ago. These years, you must have suffered inside, right? I didn't answer. I only lowered my head. Enduring the stabbing pain in my finger bones, I used that twisted index finger to skillfully pick out the poison sac. 50 for killing the fish. 200 if you want it sliced into sashimi. I pushed the processed fish flesh toward him, my voice hoarse, stripped of any emotion. Sir, will you scan to pay or pay in cash? Chapter 1. The air seemed to freeze in that second. The noisy shouts in the seafood market felt sealed off, leaving only the small corner of silence. Andrew stared at the plastic bag I handed over, but didn't take it for a long time. Selena, I'm talking to you. Perhaps, in his mind, after years apart, I should cry, break down, or run away in shame. Anything, except what I was doing now, treating him like a stranger. Andrew lowered his voice, brows tightly knitted. To spite me, you'd really degrade yourself into this petty and lowly state? Do you know what these hands used to do? Of course I knew. I glanced down at my swollen, frostbitten, cracked hands. Once, with these very hands, I performed countless surgeries. But now, they could only hold a fish-killing knife. And because my index finger had been crushed by a prison bully, it healed poorly and remained twisted outward. On bad days, I couldn't even hold the knife steadily. I could only handle the poisonous pufferfish that no one else dared to touch to make a living. Sir, I think you misunderstand. If you're not buying, please move aside. There are people in line behind you. This fish has been out of the water too long, the texture will worsen. Andrew swallowed tightly, took a deep breath, and spoke with a faint choke. Fine. Then ring it up. He then turned to his assistant behind him. Buy all the pufferfish at this stall. Pay the highest price. Send them back for the employees. After that, he looked back at me, his tone slightly softer. Selena, I know you resent me. But Sophia's health isn't good. She specifically wanted this fish. Once you finish preparing it, have someone deliver it to the mid-level villa. As for you. He took out a gold card from his wallet and set it down in the cleanest corner. The money in here is enough for you to live decently. Don't torture yourself here anymore. And don't let Pat see you, he'll be scared. Daddy, let's go. The child hiding behind Andrew finally couldn't hold back anymore. He covered his nose and kicked over the bucket of fish guts beside my feet. With a splash, the foul-smelling water drenched me from head to toe. This bad woman stinks, like a dead rat. I don't want to eat the fish she kills. Mom said that people like you, those released from labor reform prison, are the worst. You're full of poison and will kill children. My movement of holding the bucket froze. The year I was imprisoned, he had just turned 1 month old. In prison, I stared at his photos day and night, wondering whether he had learned to walk, whether he could already call me Mom. Now he is right in front of me, yet he points at me and calls me a labor reform prisoner. Andrew didn't scold him. He simply lifted his son and gave me a vaguely apologetic look. Selena, be sensible. Take the money and leave. And don't ever appear in front of Sophia. She's too kind-hearted. If she sees you like this, she'll feel guilty and won't be able to sleep. Kind-hearted. My grip on the knife tightened sharply and I almost laughed. Andrew walked away with his son, leaving only the gold card lying amid the fishy smell, completely out of place. Chapter 2. 4 days later, while I was scraping fish scales, the stall owner suddenly shouted. Hey, you, the one who kills the fish. There's a big order. A 5-star hotel in the city is hosting a banquet and specifically requested the best fish handler to come prepare sashimi. Hurry and take the fish over there. If you mess this one up, your wages won't even be enough to compensate. I slowly stood up and numbly made my way toward the city center. After changing into the hotel's uniform, I realized the clothes were too big, hanging loosely on me, yet they still couldn't conceal the fishy smell soaked deep into my bones. Hurry up. The VIP guests are waiting. The supervisor pinched his nose as he urged me, taking 2 steps back to stay farther away. Once everything was ready, I walked into the banquet hall. The lights were so bright I narrowed my eyes instinctively. Only then did I clearly see the screen at the center of the room. It was playing photo after photo. From his first wobbly steps, to his first words. Then kindergarten, piano lessons. In every picture, Sophia was there. And at the very top of the screen, the large caption pierced straight through my eyes. Happy 6th birthday to my son Pat, forever loving you, Mom. My footsteps stopped abruptly. I stared rigidly at the family of 3. What are you dazing off for? Get to the plating. The supervisor's sharp voice dragged me back to reality. I took a deep breath, forcing down the sting in my eyes, and carried the box forward. Ah, sister. It really is you. My hands froze mid-motion. I didn't turn around. That voice, I would recognize it even if I were dead and turned to ashes. Sophia, dressed in a haute couture gown, shone like a gemstone among the crowd. She walked to my side, delight flashing in her eyes though her expression appeared all concern. Andrew told me he saw you at the market. I didn't believe it. I didn't expect it was really you who delivered this. She leaned a little closer, and the expensive perfume instantly drowned out the fish smell on me. Sister, I anonymously asked my assistant to place this order on purpose. I just wanted to help your business. After all, given your situation now. You've been in prison, your hands are ruined. Other than killing fish in the market, there aren't many proper places willing to take you, right? Every word was meant to wound, each one reminding me of the pit I was in. I placed the last piece of sashimi, wiped my hands, and turned to leave. Seeing that I didn't speak, Sophia glanced around. The smile on her lips deepened. Sister, you should be very familiar with this place, right? A napkin fell to the floor, and memories flooded back instantly. 7 years ago, it was here, Andrew held my hand and in front of both families vowed to love me alone for the rest of his life. Judging by your expression, you remembered. Sophia let out a soft laugh and pulled me toward the crowd. Your wedding with Andrew was the talk of the entire city, eh? At that time, I just kept thinking. She paused, her eyes turning vicious. If only the one standing there back then had been me. Her gaze drifted proudly toward Andrew in the distance. You see, fate really is fair. Now, the one standing beside Andrew is me. The one who became the renowned surgical prodigy is me. The one Pat calls Mom is also me. She turned her head, looking me up and down, covering her mouth as she laughed. And you, my sister. You're now just a helper who delivers fish. Just like the skinned, pufferfish, disgusting to look at and only waiting to be swallowed alive by others. I finally lifted my head and looked at her calmly. Done talking. If you're done, move aside. I need to go settle the bill. Sophia's expression froze. Her eyes darted, and suddenly she spotted my mother walking toward us. Then she abruptly raised her voice and threw herself backward dramatically. Sister, how could you push me? I was trying to help you. I wanted to use this chance to help you make up with Mom and Dad. Chapter 3. The surrounding guests turned toward us at the sound, whispering among themselves. Is that the eldest daughter of the Reyes family, the one who went to prison? My God, how did she become like this? She reeks of fish. Looks like a beggar. I heard she faked her academic data and killed someone during a surgery. Deserved it. Who told you to touch her? A harsh shout cut through the crowd. My mother pushed her way through angrily. She carefully helped Sophia up, but when she turned her head toward me, her eyes instantly turned venomous. Slap. A loud slap landed hard on my face. You disgrace. Today is Pat's 6th birthday, did you come here on purpose to bring bad luck? My mother jabbed a finger at my nose, shaking with fury. Dressed like this, smelling like rotten fish. Who are you trying to disgust to death? Sophia kindly gave you a chance to earn some money. If you don't appreciate it, fine, but you dare push her. Her hands are meant to hold a scalpel to save lives. If she were hurt, do you think your life is enough to pay for that? Holding my numb cheek, I slowly turned my head. I didn't push her. She fell on purpose. Still lying. My father stepped forward with a cold face, kicking over the box beside my feet. With so many people watching, you think Sophia would hurt herself just to frame you? Take your filthy things and get out. The Reyes family has no daughter as shameful as you. Pat stepped out from behind my mother and shoved me hard. Bad woman, go away. Mom said you're a criminal who hurts people. I won't let you eat my cake. The murmurs around me grew louder, harsher. I stood there like a clown, stripped bare and put on display. My mother still didn't seem satisfied. She raised her hand again, ready to strike. Enough. Andrew had appeared at some point, catching my mother's wrist before she could hit me. His gaze swept over the fish meat on the floor, then over Sophia, crying, delicately like a wilted flower. Finally, his eyes fell on the swollen half of my face. Andrew, Sophia called out pitifully, reaching for his sleeve. Don't blame sister, she didn't mean it. Andrew ignored her. He stepped toward me and grabbed my wrist. Come with me. Without giving me a choice, he dragged me toward the side hall. Only when we reached the lounge did he finally release me. Selena, how long do you plan to keep embarrassing yourself here? Do you have to let everyone see you like this before you feel your revenge is complete? Andrew pulled out a check and handed it to me. Selena, take this money and leave City A. Go somewhere no one knows you. Start over. What happened back then? I wronged you. But I had no choice. Sophia had just returned to the country. She was fragile. She couldn't go to prison. I stared at the check. The tears came before I could stop them. Chapter 4. Back then, Sophia had just returned from studying abroad. Behind the department director's back, she secretly performed a surgery on a patient. The patient developed malignant hyperthermia, and she had no idea how to save him. Because of that mistake, the patient died on the operating table. But Andrew convinced the director to assign that surgery to me instead. By the time I entered the operating room, the patient's body had already turned cold. I was holding the scalpel when the family rushed in and saw that scene. I couldn't defend myself. And just like that, I was branded as a heartless doctor who killed someone. 3 years in prison was hell on earth. Winter was bone-piercingly cold. Summer meals were spoiled and sour. Any resistance was met with beatings. Even now, the shadow of the prison bully still haunts my nightmares. I heard your hands used to hold a scalpel. Killed someone, didn't you? What are you pretending for? From now on, you're only worthy of scrubbing toilets. They stomped on my hands, grinding down repeatedly. I will never forget that pain. When Andrew saw me remain silent, he mistook it as lingering affection. He sighed softly and said, "And Selena, we can't go back to the past." He looked into my eyes and said the sentence that sickened me to my core. I did love you. I loved the you who was calm and perfect on the operating table. But later, life became too cold. Sophia is different. She pouts, she cries, she makes a fuss, she has a lively soul. When I'm with her, I feel alive. You're too strong, Selena. You could live perfectly fine alone. But Sophia can't live without me. So because I was strong, I deserve to be sacrificed? Because she could act sweet, her killing a patient should be forgiven? Live well on my own. I repeated his words under my breath. Then, right in front of him, I removed the gloves I wore only to hide the ugliness. Under the lights, the pair of hands that were once slender and fair were fully exposed. Now, the skin was rough like tree bark, covered with frostbite scars and knife marks. The worst was my right hand. My index and middle fingers twisted unnaturally, permanent deformities left from untreated fractures. Andrew, open your eyes and look. I shoved my crippled hands in front of him, my voice trembling. Is this what you mean by "I'll live well on my own"? Andrew's pupils trembled violently. His face turned deathly pale. He instinctively reached out, wanting to grab my hand. Your hand, how could it become like this? I clearly arranged for the prison guards to look after you. Look after. I jerked my hand away, avoiding his touch. Yes. Thanks to your lovely wife's so-called care. She bribed the prison bully, had her break my fingers one by one. They stomped while saying, Dr. Reyes, murderers don't deserve to hold a scalpel. From now on, you're only fit to scrub toilets. Andrew staggered backward, disbelief flooding his eyes. No, impossible. Sophia is so kind. She would never do something like that. Kind. I stared at him coldly. Andrew, you sent me to prison with your own hands. You know exactly whose crime I took the fall for. This 1 million, are you trying to repent or by your conscience? Andrew hadn't recovered yet when the lounge door was suddenly slammed open. Sir, bad news, something's happened. Chapter 5. The assistant shouted in terror. President Castro ate the sashimi and suddenly can't breathe. It looks like acute laryngeal edema, he's about to die. Andrew and I exchanged looks and rushed out. The banquet hall was already in chaos. President Castro had collapsed on the floor, his face turning purple. And the surrounding guests screamed and backed away in fear. Dr. Reyes, where's Dr. Sofia Reyes? Save him. You're the surgical prodigy, hurry and save President Castro. Sofia Reyes was pushed to the center of the crowd. Seeing the patient convulsing, her face turned ghostly pale. She held a first aid kit, but her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't even unzip it. Call an ambulance, quickly. Call an ambulance. She cried out, not daring to touch the patient. It's too late. His airway is swelling shut, if you don't perform a tracheotomy now, he'll die. Someone who knew a bit of medicine shouted anxiously. Dr. Reyes, hurry. A tracheotomy is your specialty. Sophia held the scalpel, but her hands trembled like leaves in a storm. She couldn't even locate the incision point. The tip of the blade hovered over the patient's neck for ages. But she never dared make the cut. President Castro's eyes rolled back and he was seconds from suffocating to death. Get out of the way. I couldn't hold back any longer. I shoved through the crowd and pushed Sophia aside. What are you doing? You're going to kill him. My mother was still screaming. I ignored her completely, my gaze sharp as a blade. My hands might have been ruined, but the anatomical entry point for a tracheotomy. I could find it even with my eyes closed. I grabbed a dinner knife from the table and found a thick straw. With my left hand, I pressed down hard on the patient's throat. My right palm braced the knife handle and using the weight of my entire body, I drove it down in one precise stab. SSSHHH, air rushed through the opening. President Castro's chest rose and fell. He could breathe again. The entire hall fell silent, stunned. I slowly stood up, tossing the knife aside, and looked straight at Sophia. In front of everyone, I said with a cold, cutting sneer. This is the so-called genius surgical prodigy you all worship. She can't even perform the most basic tracheotomy. And she needs a criminal like me to clean up her mess. Sophia's face turned deathly pale. She tried to defend herself. I was just nervous. I wiped the blood off my hands and let out a mocking laugh. Nervous? Sophia, didn't you recently publish a groundbreaking SCI paper on an improved minimally invasive tracheotomy technique? It caused a sensation in the entire medical field, right? Funny thing, your paper's data was stolen from the draft I hadn't finished 6 years ago. When you copied it, didn't you notice? There was a decimal point error in the third experimental dataset. It threw off the entire procedure. I hadn't corrected it yet before I took the fall for you and went to prison. And in your paper, that exact error is still there. Chapter 6. The birthday banquet had turned into a farce. When President Castro was carried onto the stretcher, he was still unconscious. But at least he could breathe again. That breath of life was also a slap. One that landed squarely across Sophia's face. The guests were never evacuated. They gathered at the entrance of the hotel, a forest of glowing phone screens lighting up the darkness. Long before the ambulance arrived, countless videos from every possible angle had already hit the internet. City A's no. One surgical prodigy exposed. Can't even perform a basic tracheotomy. Fish market butcher saves billionaire's life. Fish vendor's true identity revealed, former medical virtuoso. Everything that happened in the banquet hall spread throughout City A in a single night. That genius surgical prodigy, Sophia, once worshipped like a saint, became the biggest joke in the entire medical field. Because she couldn't even perform the most basic tracheotomy. Even worse, the decimal point error I exposed publicly became solid proof of her academic fraud. Major medical journals withdrew her papers overnight. The hospital suspended all her duties. Those who once flattered her now wished they could stomp her into the dirt. And I was still in the seafood market, busy slicing fish sashimi. No matter how fierce the storms outside became, none of it had anything to do with me. All I cared about was whether I could sell a few more pufferfish today. Because for the current Selena, living well, that was the only thing that mattered. By evening, the market had mostly emptied. I was squatting on the ground, scrubbing the chopping board, when a pair of handmade leather shoes appeared in my field of vision. I didn't have to look up to know who it was. That cold cedar scent, I had smelled it for years. Selena. Andrew's voice was hoarse, his expression more exhausted than I had ever seen. The market's closing. Come with me, let's find a place to talk. I rinsed my swollen, deformed hands and said coldly. Sir, my hourly rate is expensive. 50 for killing fish. 5,000 if you want to chat. Andrew's breath caught. After a long silence, he finally spoke in a low voice. That decimal point. Was that data really from the manuscript you hadn't finished 6 years ago? Under the dim lights, I slowly raised my head and looked at the man I once loved. Now reduced to such misery. So what if it was? So what if it wasn't? I stared at him with indifference, a mocking smile curling at my lips. Are you asking because you want to buy the copyright for your lovely wife? Or are you planning to accuse me of something else and send me back to prison? No. Andrew denied it immediately, panic trembling in his voice. I had someone investigate, they checked the raw data of that paper. And I also had someone pull the prison surveillance. His eyes fixed on my twisted hand and instantly turned red. Selena, if I had known what they did to you in that prison. If I had known that data was your life's work, I cut him off, my voice impossibly calm. And what would it change if you knew? Andrew, you were never going to care. Before I went to prison, I wrote you a letter telling you my manuscript was in the safe. When my fingers were being broken inside, I begged the guard to call you. And you. I took a step closer, staring at his ashen face. You were with Sophia watching fireworks. You rented out the entire Disneyland to celebrate her return to the country. As long as Sophia was happy, as long as the Reyes family's reputation was protected, whether my hands were destroyed, whether I lived or died, you didn't care at all. Andrew stumbled backward, opening and closing his mouth yet unable to say a single word. The silence now was as deafening as it had been 6 years ago. Go back, Andrew. I picked up my rag again and continued cleaning. Sophia is probably crying right now. She's so fragile, she can't live without you. Don't waste time on someone like me, reeking of fish guts. Andrew stood there for a long time. Then he took a small box from his coat and set it beside me. This is the best frostbite ointment and the contact information of a top hand surgeon. Selena, I'm sorry. He left, his back desolate, like a stray dog in winter. I picked up the box. Without a hint of hesitation, I threw it into the trash bin. Medicine applied after the wound has already scarred does nothing but tear the wound open again. Andrew, your love came far too late. Chapter 7. Sophia's retribution came even faster than I had imagined. The scandal of her academic fraud had not yet subsided when late that night, my phone rang again. It was Andrew's assistant. Miss Reyes, I beg you. Please come to the hospital. Pat is dying. When I arrived at the hospital, chaos had already broken out outside the emergency room. Pat had suffered a sudden acute hemolytic anemia with full-body organ failure. He urgently needed a blood transfusion and a hematopoietic stem cell transplant. The blood bank's Rh-negative supply was running out. Andrew stood at the end of the corridor, his eyes blood-red. My father and mother were collapsed on the floor, crying uncontrollably. And Sophia was being held up by two nurses, her face pale as paper. What's going on? When he saw me, Andrew looked as though he had grasped a life-saving straw. He rushed over and grabbed my shoulders. Selina, you're here. You're Pat's biological mother, your blood will definitely work. I frowned, glancing at Sophia who was trembling in the corner. Didn't Sophia always claim she was Pat's mother? Biological sisters share the same blood type. Why not draw hers? As soon as I finished speaking, the chief of the laboratory department walked out holding a report. His face was ashen, his hands shaking. His eyes swept between Mr. and Mrs. Reyes and Sophia before finally landing on Andrew. Andrew, something big has happened. Miss Reyes II's blood type is type B. But Pat and the eldest Miss Reyes both have the rare Rh-negative panda blood. They cannot possibly be a match. Mrs. Reyes suddenly sprang up from the floor and screamed. Impossible. Sophia and Selina are biological sisters, they were the same at birth. You must have tested it wrong. Do it again. The chief took a deep breath and repeated. Not only do their blood types not match, but while doing the transplant matching, we also ran a DNA comparison. Miss Reyes II has no biological relation to Mr. and Mrs. Reyes at all. The words hit everyone like a bolt of lightning, splitting open their skulls. All gazes locked onto Sophia. No, that's not true. Sophia Reyes collapsed onto the floor, shaking her head violently. I am the daughter of the Reyes family. I am the real heiress, they're lying. Andrew, believe me. I love Pat. My father suddenly rushed forward and slapped Sophia hard across the face. Shut up. He used his full strength, Sophia's mouth split open, bleeding instantly. You bastard child, so you really were a bastard. I raised you for more than 20 years and gave you the best of everything. For you, I personally sent my biological daughter to prison. My mother went completely mad, lunging at Sophia and yanking her hair. Give my daughter back. Give her back to me. My Selina, for you, you imposter. We ruined Selina's life. I stood aside, watching the whole scene with cold indifference, feeling nothing but the deepest irony. Yesterday, they still held Sophia like a treasure and called me trash. Today, upon learning she wasn't related by blood, they turned cruel without hesitation. So this was what their so-called family love amounted to, pathetically fragile. Andrew stood frozen, staring at Sophia's bruised, swollen face without the slightest reaction. Selina, I destroyed a real pearl with my own hands, all for a worthless fake. My mother suddenly turned around. With a thud, she dropped to her knees in front of me, crying so hard she could barely breathe. Selina, I was wrong. I must have been blinded. You are my only daughter. Please forgive me. Let's go home. I'll give you everything the Reyes family has. I lowered my head to look at her, the woman who gave birth to me and raised me, and felt absolutely nothing. I slowly pulled my hand free from her grip and stepped back. Mrs. Reyes, you've mistaken me for someone else. Your daughter died 6 years ago in that winter inside that prison. As for me, I'm just a fish-gutting labor convict. I don't deserve to be associated with the Reyes family. Chapter 8. Sophia was taken away by the police for investigation. The Reyes family became the laughingstock of the entire city overnight. Pat's condition had stabilized for the moment, but he still needed a bone marrow transplant as soon as possible. That night, I returned to the basement again. Just as I reached the door, I saw a dark figure curled up in the corner. It was Andrew. He was gripping a document folder tightly in his hand. When he saw me return, he scrambled to his feet in a panic. Selina, I ignored him and took out my key to open the door. Move. But Andrew pressed his body hard against the door, refusing to let go. Tears slid down his cheeks and fell onto the back of my hand, cold and piercing. Selina, please, just listen to me. Just a few words. I let go of the key and turned to look at him. Say it. Then get out. Andrew's eyes were red as he looked at my twisted hand. With a thud, he fell to his knees. Selina, I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I never loved any so-called passionate soul. It wasn't until I lost you that I realized the Reyes doctor with a heart full of compassion, you, was my real home. His hands trembled as he lifted the document folder. For the past 3 years, I've thought about you every single day. Sophia was just excitement I chased because I was running away from an ordinary life. But the one I loved has always been you. In here is the best reconstructive surgery plan in the world and half the shares of the Mao Group. Selena, let me fix your hand. Let's start over, please. I'll spend the rest of my life atoning. I'll raise Pat well. We can be like before. Like before. I laughed, and somewhere between laughter, tears spilled down my face. I crouched down so that my eyes were level with his. I lifted my crippled right hand and gently patted his cheek. Andrew, look at this hand. The bones are broken, the tendons are severed, and the nerves are dead. Even if it's reattached, I'll never be able to hold a scalpel again. Just like my heart. I pointed at my chest, speaking each word with icy clarity. This place died 3 years ago. Killed by your own hands. You say you love me. But your love is filthy. I don't want it. Affection that arrives too late is worth less than grass. Andrew's face turned ghostly pale as tears streamed down. He reached out to grab my hand, but I slapped his away hard. Don't touch me. Take your money and your cheap fake love and get as far away from me as possible. The bond between us in this lifetime died long ago. I kicked the document folder into the foul drainage ditch beside us, then slammed the door shut. Chapter 9. Pat's condition deteriorated quickly. Even with the best medication sustaining him, his vital signs continued to drop. His blood type was extremely rare, and there was no matching donor in the bone marrow registry. I became the only hope. That day, I stood outside the glass window of the intensive care unit. I watched the child I had carried for 10 months and given birth to, now covered in tubes. His tiny body curled up into a fragile ball. After Sophia was arrested, Pat finally learned the truth. He learned that the loving aunt who spoiled him was a liar and that the fish-gutting ex-convict he despised was his real mother. He had been awake for a while and he saw me standing outside the window. Through the glass, he opened his mouth and tears rolled down the sides of his eyes. I could read his lips. He was calling Mom. I looked at him. My palms grew slightly sweaty, but I didn't go in. Andrew knelt at my feet. His hair had turned completely white in one night and he looked as though he had aged 10 years. Selena, everything was my fault. Pat is innocent. He is the child you carried for 10 months. He is your flesh. I'm begging you, save him. If you save him, I'll give you anything you want. My life, Mao Group, everything. He cowed out as he begged, clutching the hem of my pants with humiliating desperation. His forehead slammed against the tiles, blood flowing down. And even the doctors and nurses nearby were moved to tears. I lowered her head and looked at this man who had humbled himself into dust. I remembered 7 years ago at our wedding when he held my hand with pride, promising to protect me for the rest of my life. I remembered 6 years ago outside the operating room when he pushed me into the abyss. Truly ironic. Save him. I know children are innocent, children are blank pages. But Andrew, exactly because he's innocent, your sins become even more disgusting. I locked my eyes on his, approaching him step by step, releasing every question I had buried in my heart. These past years, why didn't you tell him the truth? Not even once. What gave you the right to let Sophia brainwash him? To let her raise him into a dagger aimed at my chest? When he smashed his birthday cake at me, calling me a labor convict, calling me a criminal, where were you? You were worried that Sophia was frightened. You were blaming me for being unreasonable. I pointed toward the child lying in the ward and let out a bitter laugh. You were the one who severed the last bond between us as mother and son. You taught him to hate his real mother. And now you dare ask me to save a child who despises me down to his bones. Andrew trembled all over, unable to speak through his sobs. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I closed my eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. Fine. I'll save him. Andrew jerked his head up, wild joy exploding in his eyes. Selena, thank you, thank you. Don't thank me yet. I have conditions. I will save him, but I will use this bone marrow to completely sever the last trace of blood ties between us. I took out a document I had already prepared and tossed it in front of him. Sign it. After the surgery, I'm leaving the country. From this day on, you and your son must never appear before me again. Whether he lives or dies has nothing to do with me anymore. Andrew looked at the letter of severed relations, his hand shaking so hard he could barely hold the pen. Trembling, he signed his name, choking as he said, "All right. I promise you. As long as you save him, I will never disturb you again." Chapter 10. The surgery was scheduled for 3 days later. During those days, Sophia completely lost her mind in the detention center. She tried pretending to be insane to escape trial and even attempted to hire someone to kidnap Pat as her last bargaining chip, but Andrew gave her no chance. He personally submitted every piece of evidence, including the recording from years ago that had framed me and sent me to prison. He even made a special request to the people inside to place Sophia in the exact same cell I once lived in. I heard that on her very first day, her right hand was broken and she cried in the bathroom all night. Cause and effect, retribution never misses. The day of the surgery was a rare sunny day. I lay on the operating table as the anesthetic slowly flowed through my veins. On the small bed beside me lay Pat, his head completely shaved. He turned toward me, tears filling his eyes. "Mom. I'm sorry. I love you, can you hug me?" But I only closed my eyes, giving no response at all. There is no grief greater than a dead heart. When even hatred is gone, where would love come from? Begin. The surgery was very successful. The stem cells were infused into Pat's body and his condition began to improve. When I woke up, the first person I saw was President Castro, the one who had collapsed at the banquet before. "Miss Reyes, I heard everything about what happened to you. To thank you for saving my life, I've already contacted the best hand surgery specialists overseas. It won't restore full function, but they can at least help you live like a normal person." The day I walked out of the hospital, heavy snow began to fall. Winter was approaching, but it would be my last winter in this city. By the time Andrew settled his son and rushed out to find me, all he saw were 2 lines of tire marks in the snow. He sped all the way to the airport, but when he burst into the departure hall, the plane I was on had already broken through the clouds flying toward the distant horizon. Chapter 11. Winter in Zurich always came with an endlessly long season of snow. But I liked the snow here, clean, pure, without the gloom of City A. After finishing my afternoon lecture, I walked out of the teaching building with my lesson materials in my arms. 5 years had passed. Although my right hand could never hold a scalpel again, after multiple reconstructive surgeries, it allowed me to live normally. I conducted medical theoretical research here, my days as calm as still autumn waters. Passing by the bench near the clock tower, I saw 2 familiar figures. Snow drifted heavily. Andrew was sitting in a wheelchair, a thick blanket covering his legs. It was from 5 years ago, the car accident he got into while speeding to chase me to the airport. Both legs had sustained comminuted fractures. I heard they inserted more than a dozen steel nails just to save them, and the pain tortured him every rainy day. Retribution, I supposed. After all, back then my hand had hurt the same way. Standing beside him was a boy of about 11 or 12. He was taller now, stronger too, the life saved by my bone marrow. Pat. When he saw me walking closer, my son instinctively wanted to run toward me. But when he saw the look in my eyes, he stopped abruptly, shrinking back. His eyes turned red and he called out softly, carefully. "Mom." Andrew pushed the wheelchair forward, his hands trembling. 5 years had passed and his temples had turned shockingly white. "Selena, long time no see. We've been looking for you for so long. Pat, he misses you. He's been very obedient these years, studying hard. He says he wants to get into medical school and save lives like you." Pat nodded quickly, pulling out a stack of perfect score tests from his backpack and holding them out to me with both hands. Tears rolled down uncontrollably. "Mom, I know I was wrong. I won't listen to anyone else ever again. I know, you're the one who saved my life. Can you not abandon me?" If this had been many years ago, I might have softened. But now, I only found them a little noisy. this gentleman and this young boy. I think you've mistaken me for someone else. I am Professor Reyes. I am not anyone's mother nor anyone's wife." Andrew's expression changed instantly. His fingers gripping the blanket turned pale. "Selena, do you still hate us? You can punish me however you want. But these years, I truly, Andrew." I cut him off, my tone already emptied of hatred. "I don't hate you anymore. Hatred takes strength. Please leave. From today on, we go our separate ways and each find our own life." As the harsh winter dispersed, everything in the past was buried by me in the wind and snow.